It's time.
It is.
All right.
We moved the clock, that's
Right over there.
right.
Oh, they moved. Good, I can see it. Excellent.
Nice job.
And there's a little clock on.
Little clock on the thing there.
It says 4:30.
That says 4:30. All right, so we'll call the board to order here. It's Selectmen Board Meeting, November 12th, 2019. A regular meeting at 3:30 here in the town office, Jackson. We'll call the meeting to order if I could, and we'll do first up is the approval of the minutes from last time, which was October 22nd. So I'll entertain a motion to approve said minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes with no changes.
Second that.
Any discussion on anything?
No,
Look good.
it was a busy meeting.
It was. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A little white stuff on the ground.
Yes.
I think Veterans Day weekend is the perfect time.
Yeah.
Last year it was far too early.
It's like Labor Day.
Way
No.
too early.
Way too early. Thank you. Oops. Item number 3, action items. The three of us had none. Julie A had some health insurance and tax rates.
Actually, Julie has a printout in there, John, for you to read
Okay.
on those action items.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so first action item on the docket here is the health insurance for 2020. Proposals were submitted by Interlocal Trust and Health Trust. Interlocal Trust has not exceeded the renewal rate of 9.8%, increasing the family plan up to $2,630 per year, 28,156 total. Health Trust presented a number of plans, some of which were ruled out immediately because the cost was too high. Those were $0 deductibles or $500 deductible plans. All three selectmen reviewed the proposal with me individually, talking for Julie Atwell, and voted yes for the site of service plan with Health Trust. This keeps the plan's cost down, but requires the members to go to certain facilities for lab work or radiology. The cost of the family plan has increased $563 per year to a total of $24,995. So that was to help keep the cost down on that. Any thoughts or discussion on that?
No, I had a pretty good discussion with Julie Otwell, and thought she'd done some good research and came up with a plan that, you know, held the town's costs down. I didn't trust the one that had a 9% increase. Maybe they couldn't really guarantee anything. So I thought she did some great homework and gave us a good option. So I like it.
I can concur with that.
Yeah, the thing with Interlocal Trust that's interesting is Health Trust doesn't do this, but if you go with Health Trust and move from Interlocal denies you, they won't quote you for 2 years. So we'll be with Health Trust for 2 years, and we tried to get them to give us a ceiling on an increase for next year, but they said they wouldn't be able to do that. So, you know, you're kind of at the mercy of the two different plans, and looking at some of the other plans that are out there, and also the increases I've seen across the industry, it's anywhere from 7 to 15%. So our increase in the plan is much less than that. I think it was just under 5%, and it was much less than what the industry standards are. And then I'd like to also point out that there are two things that have always been a big discussion. One is the health insurance and the cost of it to the town, but the other is who is covered under our health insurance. So on this topic, I think that you, like you both said, Julie did a good job of negotiating, presenting the plans, etc., that we are paying for, and I think they're fair plans, and they're good plans without being Cadillac plans, if you will. So it was interesting to see how that was laid out, and I think it was done well.
Very good. All righty. Excuse me. The other action item was the 2019 tax rate. Three options were presented to the selectmen, select people. Option number one was no use of the fund balance, and as a result, the overall tax rate would be down, but the municipal rate would have been up 6%. Option number two was use fund balance to bring the municipal rate increase to 3%. The overall tax rate would be down, but the municipal rate would have been up by 3%. And the third option was to use the fund balance to bring the municipal rate down to 1%. The overall tax rate would be down, but the municipal rate would have to be up 1%. And again, that's using the fund balance to offset those rates. We all reviewed the options, and all three voted to use $103,000 of the fund balance to bring the tax rate, 2018 tax rate of $11.61 down to a 2019 tax rate of $11.26. So it's down roughly 25 cents per thousand. Obviously, the evaluations went up by about 12%, was it? So it made overall taxes individually to go up, but again, that was a 12% increase of the evaluation, which we offset with a little bit of the fund balance. Does that sound correct there?
Yeah.
Am I saying that properly?
You've done it.
All right. Any discussion on that or any comments?
Not from us.
No,
That's
I
about
think it's a good use of the fund balance, and I like it.
Fund balance, of course, has always been a point of discussion for you, Jerry, I know, and it is interesting to analyze why we keep the fund balance what we do, and we left it, we were able to use some of it to reduce the tax and leave it at a pretty level amount as a percentage of what our rate is. So I think it's a wise decision, being that it sits at a level at the end of the tax year, but it can fluctuate during the year quite a bit, and we're very fortunate to not have to borrow money during the year.
Discussion? Any comments?
I don't know what I guess I don't know how much money is in the fund balance. I'm sure it's recorded somewhere, but I don't know. Do you have that info? And how is that fund balance added to over the year or years? We can't just keep subtracting. My knowledge of this is really low, so please help.
Yeah, is it $500,000?
Let's see here.
Well, every year,
I think it's 11.6.
any extra money, we don't spend it all. You know, if the fire department, the police department, it goes back into the general fund, and that becomes the fund balance. That's what we've raised more than we used. So that, and to return that to us, we just put it into the fund balance and then use part of that. I think DRA says we have to keep 5.5% in reserve anyway. And we keep more than that. And I think one year, in order to be equal to Bartlett's tax rate, we used up all the fund balance. But then if something comes up in the year, we have to go to the bank, get a bank loan, and pay for it that way. Which I never thought was a great idea for Jackson. We've never been a deficit spender. We always raise the money we need, and then if we don't raise it all, we put it into the fund. And then it comes back around to it. I mean, it doesn't go away, but I think it's prudent business.
I'll give you an example too. For like now, our taxes are all due, and we have to put money out to pay certain other expenditures. And as we're waiting for the tax money to come in, we can use the general fund balance to subsidize that until the tax money comes back in. So it does give us sort of a cushion of savings, but again, like Dick said, we don't have to go to the credit line, which we have access to, but then we'd have to pay interest, and it's sort of like having that, 6 months of expenses in the bank that we need to be diligent about watching, so.
And typically, it's been around, what, 11 to 14% is what we try to
11-ish.
keep, and I think.
It's still below 11, it's like 11.6.
11.85 would be what we retain after paying out the 103,000 to help offset a little bit of the tax rate that we have now. So we still have almost $800,000 in there, which is 11.85%, which is in that margin on the low end of what they suggest that we keep.
And what did you say the DRA said we have to keep?
Have to have
At least
5.
5.5%.
5.5.
Yeah, but we can't keep over a certain amount too, but I can't remember what the ceiling is.
Yeah, I think it was 15 or 16%, but we're not near that.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Thank you.
Just to clarify a couple of things and have a couple of points on it too, that there is no requirement for keeping any unreserved fund balance. There used to be a law requiring it, there no longer is a law requiring any.
There is not a law
No.
requiring that we keep a fund balance?
But an undesignated fund balance. So you don't have to keep any. It certainly would be ridiculous not to keep any with Jackson doing that. You kind of conflated a couple things there, Dick, when you said deficit spending. Deficit spending to me is when you, let's say you appropriate $30,000 for sand in 1 year, but you buy $40,000 worth of sand because we had a lot more ice on the roads than we anticipated. That's a deficit spending where you go over a line item. Now, if you, in our budget, we had other money we could take and spend that on, then it wouldn't be a deficit spending thing. To me, a deficit spending thing is when you've spent all the money that you have appropriated, then you need to spend more. That's a deficit spending. So what you're talking about deficit spending, Dick, you're saying that we use the undesignated fund balance as cash flow so that we don't have to borrow money for the money that we've appropriated, because you only get taxes in twice a year. So it's not so if you were to borrow money in order to pay out the bills that you have and the money that you've appropriated through taxes, that's not deficit spending. That's just borrowing money to cover cash flow for any given time of year. And we wouldn't spend that much money in order to have, if we went and used the TAN note, the tax anticipation note, we used that, we wouldn't spend a whole lot of money in order to use that kind of cash flow. So I would never, if it were me, I would never use the undesignated cash flow just to avoid having to take out a TAN note. To me, that would be kind of a misuse of that fund. But the only other point I would like to make is that when you talk about the percentages of what you have for an undesignated fund balance, it should always be what it actually is, not what you anticipate it to be. So in sometime between January and February, you're going to know exactly what your undesignated fund balance is. That's what it is. That's what goes on the MS-25 form for what the actual amount is. And that's the percentage of the town's budget that it should be. And that should be what you look at. Historically, we've been saying that it is what it is actually after you set the tax rate in October, or when November. Did you do it in October?
Right, yeah.
So when you actually used whatever you used from it, it isn't what it's down to after you've spent that. It's actually what it is in January. It is what it is when you know what it is. So before you've spent it, you can't say that, well, last year it was $1 million, we used $100,000, so now it's $900,000. No, it's still $1 million. That's what it is, and that's how you should look at it from year to year. But I do think that the percentage of the designated undesignated balance actually is within a window that I would consider pretty good. I'd like to see it lower, but that's splitting hairs at that point in time. Because it is nice come October to be able to reflect, okay, how much did we increase the budget this year? How much of that should we mitigate? And thinking about what you know is coming up for the following year. So. And in fact, with the school board, I've been arguing that we shouldn't, because we now can retain some money as well. We can only spend it on certain things, but we can retain money as well. And I've been arguing that we shouldn't be as a school board because the town already does. So it's like we kicked back $167,000, I think, this year. And rather than us retaining any of that, I think it's much better for you guys to manage our underspent money. Because you've been doing a better job and it's easier for you because you can spend it on lowering the tax rate directly. And then other things as well the following year where we can't do that. We can only, let's say we save $50,000 in case we blow a boiler or two or something like that. That's what we can save it for, but what's the sense in us doing that if the town's already doing it as well? So.
Interesting.
Very good. All right. We have a new action item category that I added. Hope I didn't ask
No.
permission, but just kind of keep updates on things that are happening in other departments and things like that. I just have a category here for department head updates, and we do have one today from the highway department. New heating system at the town garage. We got going on?
Yeah, the heat has been an issue since day one up there, so.
Really? That's fairly new though.
Well, it's 10 years old.
10 years now? Gosh.
Gosh.
The third boiler needs to come out and be replaced with a new boiler. And so I did a lot of work, I tried to do a lot of work over the summer. It kind of stopped working in the spring. We put, I don't know, upwards to $2,000 to $3,000 into it last winter. And it was out of heat for probably 2.5 weeks total with no backup system. So it kind of made me think about a backup system, secondary heat source, and then how do we fix the problem? Can we look at the issues that we have and fix it? And talk to 2 different people, and one of them is, one of them was kind of concerned because technically the boiler that's in there and the boiler that we'd be replacing it with is not a commercial boiler, it's in a commercial building. And so to go up to a commercial type system, you're talking about $28,000. I never got he never got to me a hard number. And so the quote that I got from the people that work on it is like less than half of that. So with the luck that we've had with the boilers in there, I'm not sure it makes sense to spend that kind of money on something where you could buy 2 of these. I mean, so the new stuff has only lasted like 10 or 15 years, not 30 or 40 like the old boilers used to. So got a lot of different opinions, and everybody's like super busy, and just it's very hard to get anybody to come and do anything because they're all just busy. And I mean, I called 2 different people and they were like 2 months out before they could send anybody to look at it. And it was like,
I'll be run by then.
well, yeah, so we kind of started getting cold and tried to make a few more phone calls, and Dick and I worked and said, let's just do this, we need heat. And, so we're going with a proposal that we have. So I think it's 11,000 for a new boiler, and they're also giving us a second unit basically for free. So
Second unit for what?
we're getting a hanging second heating unit.
It would be
back.
auxiliary heat units.
So it's a boiler, it's all radiant tubing in the floor now. And when that boiler goes out, the building has no heat. And so we're gonna get a second unit hanging, like what the fire station has, those hot dogs, I think they call them, the propane, totally separate unit.
Radiant type?
It's just
Protect down.
It's a wall mount
Yeah,
on the lower propane fire.
yeah, hot air, basically blows hot air. So we'll have a secondary heat source, and they're giving that to us for free for the troubles that we've had last winter.
Oh, really? Oh, that's nice.
So that's like a $3,500 unit.
Super. When is this gonna take place here? What time frame?
December 3rd is the date I've been given.
You know, we have money to do that, I assume.
Yeah, I've got money that I can pull away from my budget
Thank you very much. Anything on that? Wish to add? Joyce?
May I ask a question of Pat?
Sure.
Pat, how many boilers did you say you've had in 10 years?
One.
This is the third one.
Really?
Wow.
The first one was hooked up for natural gas and nobody caught it when the building was new. It was set up to run on natural gas and it wasn't natural gas that's running it, it's
Right.
propane, which they don't last when that happens. So that was bad. And that was first year and a half that we were there. So we got a little reimbursement from the company that put it in, but it was a he said, well, they looked at it, well, they put it in, but they looked at it. And then, so they installed another boiler and that boiler wasn't like the correct boiler. The building is supposed to be really, really efficient and smart. And there's an outdoor temperature sensor hooked to the boiler and it reads the water temperature in the boiler and it reads the outdoor temperature. And regardless of what you want with your thermostat, the boiler decides whether it comes on or not. It's supposed to be like fancy and great and it stinks. Because when it's like raining and 50 and you want the heat on, you can't have the heat on because it won't come on. So we're doing away with that. And it wasn't hooked up right to begin with, type of a thing. The thermostat wasn't reading right, so the whole system was running 365 days a year, flowing heat through the building. And it's just kind of some issues that we're slowly trying to resolve. And so there's a lot of wear and tear that's happened on certain parts that, you know, circulators running in the middle of summer that shouldn't have been running in the middle of summer, but it happened, and so.
Is there any resale value of the current boiler that we have?
The current boiler that we have is.
Shot? And then the one before that, what did we do with that one? The smart
That
boiler?
was, well, I don't think we paid for that switch. It was the company that kind of put the wrong one in, but technically this is boiler number 3. That's in there right now is boiler number 3 since we opened. Technically, we've only bought 1.5, I guess, but it's kind of been an interesting issue.
How many square feet in that building do you heat?
4,800 maybe, 60 by 80. 6 times 8 is 48. My math is right. That's
Good for you. I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Good going, Teach.
And who is the contractor presently who will be putting in?
White Mountain Oil is going to be putting it in.
Thank you.
Do we feel like we're getting the right equipment and everything now that now that you've been living through this for 10 years?
Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to figure it out I mean, you can't, if I ask 4 different people, I'm gonna get 4 different opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And
This seems like the best opinion.
I mean, I think it's the one that we kind of need to go with, because I can't justify the other option that seemed logical. Like, I understand if it's a commercial building, it should have a commercial boiler, and I understand about warranties and push come to shove, and there was a warranty issue. I think that it will be honored through White Mountain Oil. I really hope. But, I mean, there's a valid point. It's not a rated commercial boiler.
We're using it commercially.
So, I mean, but it's exactly what was designed for the building and engineered by an engineering company and all that kind of stuff. So that's all happened 10 years ago, the whole design. There wasn't, when you hire somebody to come in and design stuff, you just sort of assume or take for
they're
granted
expert,
that it's
yeah.
being all correct.
Right.
If you don't know about it, you're kind of at their mercy. And there's definitely some things that, Jay and I have talked about in hindsight, like, we need to make sure if we ever have to do this again, another building, we need to make sure that garage doors are really looked at and we've had trouble with garage doors and, you know, furnace, you know, you really need to spend, where you thought you needed to spend time, you did, but there's other areas that you learn, kind of, you need to make sure that you're not just getting what somebody's gonna just put in, you know?
We did that building, there was really zero thought put into the heating system.
Yeah.
Other than we decided that we wanted radiant heat in the floor, and then, that was it. The radiant heaters up above were put in as an afterthought, but we had no involvement in all as far as what the boiler was, how it was going to work and all. And that's kind of...
Yeah, you just assume that, you know, it's being all engineered by a company that does mechanical engineering, that it would be all correct, but how do you take that information? I mean, I've got all the plans and you see all the plumbing and it's all done the way that it was engineered, but this other guy comes in and says, well, that shouldn't be there, that shouldn't be there, and that shouldn't be there, and like, well, who's right, who do you call when, I mean, I don't know.
Ghostbusters.
I'm out of my element on heat, so I'm not and then to try and get people to come in, it's like,
Right.
I mean, the valley and even outside of the valley is really, 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 really busy. And so for somebody, they're just not, they don't need to come up here and work. I mean, I was telling them I'll pay you, you know, I don't expect you to come and give me 2 hours of free time, you know, and then just leave and never see me again. Like, I don't expect people to do that. I mean, if you need to get a bid and it's an honest proposal, but I was looking for help. Like, come look at my system and look at my plans, and is it right or is it not right? And I mean, I went from Littleton to Freedom to a couple of people that I know, and trying to be somewhat on a commercial level, and it's just months out, and there really isn't any interest in coming and doing it. So I don't know how to do it any better than we go in with the people that we call when the furnace goes out, and hope that they're going to take care of us. And I've had some conversations with them about that, and making sure that our service level is stepped up a notch.
Well, good luck.
Yeah,
But unless
something happens.
somebody's a heat guru and would like to come and help me.
HVAC person.
Yeah, I wish I could. Alrighty, well, thank you for that update, appreciate that. And if any other departments have anything, feel free to either drop us a line or come into our meeting so we can, you know, pass on pertinent information to people. Yes, sir. Ma'am.
Yes, John, I was wondering if I could be taken out of order only because I've got to get my daughter to the high school. She's getting inducted into the Spanish Honor Society tonight, and I got to get her there by 5 o'clock.
Sure.
He's under new business D.
All right, last thing I just wanted to mention about the update, so the next 3 meetings are November 26th, December 3rd, which is the first Tuesday, and December 13th, which is the,
17th.
I'm sorry, 17th, which is the third
Are
Tuesday.
we gonna move the meetings to 4 o'clock after our last conversation?
I thought you were gonna talk with Julie about that?
Yeah.
She was fine with that?
We were fine with 4
I was
o'clock.
fine, I'm fine with that.
Are you okay with 4 o'clock for the meetings, Hank?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So the meetings will start to be at 4 o'clock versus 3:30.
Moving to 4 o'clock.
That's starting in November.
The next meeting on November
November
26th. Right. Yeah, Julie was fine
And
with
that'll
that.
be across the board, we're not
Yeah.
gonna do it
Correct.
just one time, okay.
Go ahead, chief.
Oh, thank you very much. I want to speak about my appointment to the State Advisory Group. I was appointed by Governor Sununu to the State Advisory Group on Juvenile Justice. What the State Advisory Group is in 1974, the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act was passed by Congress, and each state establishes an advisory group which is designed to monitor and implement the 4 core principles of the JJDPA, which is that act that I referred to. Those core principles are delinquency prevention and juvenile justice, adult jail and lockup removal of juveniles from adult jails and lockup, sight and sound separation monitoring of any juveniles associated with adult offenders, and monitoring and coming up with strategies to reduce disproportionate minority interaction with the juvenile justice system. So there's a consortium in that group of educators, law enforcement members, community members, scientists at the state level that we get together every 2 months and monitor the progress of those 4 core components within the state. So it was certainly an honor to be asked. I was recommended by Pam Sullivan, who's the Director of Juvenile Justice in the state of New Hampshire, and the governor approved it and appointed me as such. So it won't take away substantially from any work that I do here. We meet every other month. If time doesn't permit me to go to Manchester to the Sununu Youth Center for the actual meeting, there's an opportunity to Skype in or phone conference. And it allows us not only a voice, but a front row seat to developments in juvenile justice and improving juvenile justice, which I believe and have believed the bulk of my career is that that's the most important stage that we deal with offenders at, is at the youth or juvenile level. If we can get them enrolled in programs and educated and pointed in the right direction, we can save ourselves and time and society an awful lot of trouble and give them the best opportunity for a successful life. So I just want to let you know that I have been appointed to that committee, and I'll be doing some work in that respect as volunteer work and represent Jackson on a gubernatorial appointed board.
Super. Congratulations on this. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good luck on that.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
I'm glad
much.
Get the recognition.
Thank you.
It's another reason we made a good choice.
I keep trying to show that every day. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you would excuse me.
Hasta luego.
I can point to. Thank you.
All right, next we'll go back on track here to item number 4, building inspector. Come on down. How are you?
All right, good.
Good.
Just a quick comment on the heating system there. It's very hard to get contractors, I know that, because I continue to hear it from foundation guys, electricians, and plumbers. It's almost impossible. And,
No problem with heating people though, apparently.
you know, yeah. And the backup heat, that's gonna really help them out, I think.
Yeah.
Just some recovery too. You open up the doors and you're relying on the radiant heat, sometimes recovery takes a long time. It'll help out a lot. And I'm hearing from contractors, like heating guys, you know, these propane fired units, they're only lasting like 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
And they're junk after that.
It's crazy.
They just, I think it has to do because they're so efficient and just electronics and everything else, but the internals just burn out after a while because of the, I guess the high temperature and then the stack temperature is real low. And there's a lot of things going on, so pretty interesting. So anyway, we got 5 new permits, or we got the first one's a renewal. It's up on 11 Temple Drive. I'm still waiting for a railing up there. Number 2 is, it's a condo unit. They're doing some remodeling, and I went there and they're gonna replace some windows. And I started measuring the windows on the ones in the bedrooms, and they didn't even meet minimum egress for size-wise. So anyway, the plan is to do there's another bedroom window that's gonna get replaced. And actually today, the fire marshal was here, and Jay and Pat Roberts from Bartlett were here. And anyway, that was one of the questions I asked him about the windows. And he was basically saying once it's undersized, they definitely have to replace those. So I'm looking at the rest of the units over there, and they're all like that. So
Yeah.
anyway, we'll have a discussion with them in the future about that. Then 21 Hemlock Hill, they took out a retaining wall that was rotted. It was all, like the 8x8 post or whatever, they're all gone, rotted, so they're actually putting a cement wall in. And, let's see, number 4, that was the house up on
Excuse me.
Sure.
On 5 feet, was it 5 feet high?
Well, it says 5 here. What they're gonna do is actually, they're pour footings, and I believe they're gonna be 8-foot walls with like 2 feet of it above grade, so they can extend a driveway into it, so someone doesn't go over the edge. And it's all gonna get backfilled. So anyway, I gotta check it up on that. And then 148 Black Mountain Road, they just had the asbestos abatement done. Actually found no asbestos, so I signed a demo permit. That house will be, I think it's be coming down in next month. Next spring, they're gonna rebuild the house, or rebuild a house. And then number 5, 208 Main Street, they're putting an addition on the back of the house for an office. And that's about it for that. I noticed too on the, maybe I can answer the thing on the new business down here on the old Tyrell batteries.
Yep.
That's here. So every 5 years, we change out the batteries on Tyrell for emergency communications. We have solar up there, and after whatever it is, 1,500 charging cycles, they recommend that. Even so, there's still some life in the batteries. And anyway, talking to Jay, and basically like between the two towns, Bartlett and Jackson, it's a 50-50 split. I mentioned to Jay about this, that the observatory has a weather station up there, and they do all the weather stuff, but also they monitor our battery bank on 2 of our battery banks up there. And I can go online and see what the batteries are doing, if they're charged up or whatever. So it's really important to us. So when I was up there last week, just finalizing for winter or whatever, and I noticed that on the batteries from the observatory, they said 2012. So I got thinking, I was like, well, and I noticed on the graph, their batteries they're not, like today, they're only at like 11.8 volts. They're supposed to get 12. So I was like, you guys, your batteries need change. And they're like, yeah, we know that. And just, funding and everything else. So I mentioned to them, well, we have these batteries, and usually last time we just gave them away to somebody and they used them. But I made a suggestion to Jay, said, we should give them to the observatory. So anyway, I called up Peter Gage, who's in charge of the site up there, and he told me that the date on there, they were actually older than 2012, so, and they're on their last leg. So anyway, I gotta talk to Pat about it, but I think that would be a good thing.
You're talking about the observatory's batteries.
Yeah, to just give our old batteries to them, replace them, because it's such a vital thing, them giving us that information on a graph that I can look up at any time to make sure, everything's working up there. And you can see it every day when the sun comes up, and things spikes and then it levels off, and
And we just gave them away last time we replaced them?
We did, yeah.
So there's not really any resale value that we would
There might
make
be.
the
It's hard to
$2.
say. The batteries, there's 10 of them, brand new, they're like $350 a piece.
Right.
But like I said, we get, 5 years, it's time to replace them, especially for emergency communications.
Right.
But this would be I kind of think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Because they're not charging us anything for, that graft or whatever. So anyway, I run it by, and I guess Pat's gonna run it by the Bartlett Selectmen and see what they feel. I think there's some interested party in Bartlett who basically wants to buy it, but I don't even know what the price or whatever, but.
Are we replacing all the batteries now, or do we do them?
No, there's 10 of them. There's 10 6-volt batteries. So there's 5 are in series, and then we parallel them to get 12 volts or whatever. So we just change out the whole unit.
All 10.
All 10 at once,
For
yeah.
$300 a piece, roughly.
350.
350 a piece.
So,
Right.
yeah, and it comes out to like both towns, if you do the math, it's like $20 a month or something for emergency power. So.
Sounds good. Anybody else have anything?
With the batteries that are going down the road, can we get somebody to bring them down to Rickers and
Oh, recycle them?
No, just get the money, they pay way,
Oh, like if we, like the observatories, so what, we'd be
Right.
giving our old batteries, yeah. I could mention that to them, so
Yeah,
we get
just-
some income from
I
them.
get something from it.
Right, because I don't know what they do, you know, same
I
thing.
don't know what
Yeah,
used batteries would be worth,
right,
but
yeah.
they'll give you, you know, a core
Yeah.
price for it.
Yeah, there's plenty of lead in them.
Yeah.
For sure. So,
They're heavy.
Super. You have anything else?
No?
Thank you very much.
all right,
Thanks, Kevin.
thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, moving on to new business. First up is planning board appointment. We have a letter here of intent from David Campbell. And I am applying for, who's the other person? My name is David, and I am applying, I'm sorry, I can't read, for planning board. What's the status on there? Is an alternate open, right?
No, he'll be a full member.
Full member?
It's my member position because I'm taking the
Right.
selectman's position, so my space opened up. He'll be a full-time.
Okay, because this was, it says planning board, earlier this year I was appointed to the planning board as an alternate. Recently I took a role as secretary of the planning board when Betsy Hardy resigned from the board. I also attended a day-long workshop earlier this year sponsored by the state to learn more about the role and responsibilities. So this would be a full-time position, right? Okay.
I would make a motion that we appoint David to the planning board as a full member.
I will second that motion,
All right.
and I'll tell him tonight.
You'll miss him.
Probably technically I should second and you should
Yeah, I know, I was
abstain,
gonna
probably, but,
Yeah, that's true, too.
so I will second the motion.
Thank you. I'll tell him tonight still.
You can. Any further discussion?
Oh, that'd be great.
All
Thank
those
you,
in
Dick.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alrighty. This is a signing card for you. Yep. Thank you. Item 5B, trustee of the trust funds withdrawal. So it says, Dear trustees, the board of selectmen requesting the following withdrawals from the trust funds as indicated below. $7,100 from the cemetery trust funds, Article 13, to Rick Davis LLC dated 10/15/19 on invoice 7956. So entertain a motion for said withdrawals.
Was that for the cemetery?
Fencing,
for
fencing at
it.
Dundee, I believe.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to withdraw those funds.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One more signature there, sir. What'd you do to your finger anyways?
It's that trigger finger thing.
Was that, did you get a trigger finger on there?
Trigger finger. Yep, I'm gonna see it there. Boom. If I do this, it gives me dexterity.
That's good. Alrighty, item 5C is the anti-harassment policy. Thank you, sir. This will be added to our personnel policy if voted on correctly, or approved, I should say. It says Primex has been reviewing some of our policies so we can join the Prime program and qualify for a discount.
I like it.
They have reviewed our anti-harassment policy that is in our employee handbook. Please see the attached. These changes that they said were need to be made. And would like to approve these changes in the next selectmen's meeting so we can update the policy. So, have you read this? Have you seen these changes? I have not.
I have not.
Okay, so maybe we could disseminate these and have us look at them, and then we'll give an approval for next meeting.
Sure.
All right, we'll table that. So,
Are these copies?
I think they were sent, they were emailed out to
Oh, okay.
us, but
They just had
It's
some,
that one.
Oh, you're gonna send it.
few changes in terms of edits and strikes and
Yeah, just
you know,
some
make it wording
changes.
politically
Yeah.
correct and
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I've just seen this for the first time, so I would like to read through that before approving that. But, so, any motion to table, I guess.
Make a motion to table that till the next
Second.
meeting.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we got the readout from Chief Purley on the gubernatorial appointment for the State Advisory Committee on the Juvenile Justice System, so we'll pass that. And back to the Tyrol batteries. This is item E. I know if Gene wrote a note here saying the chief was concerned about the Tyrol batteries. Do we want to put them out for bid? That was from Gene Chandler. Certainly wouldn't hurt to put them out for bid, but I'm sure we have a connection of sorts to find those. Obviously, we've bought them in the past, so, but I have no problem putting them out to bid, but looking at about $3,500 divided in half, yeah, like Kevin said, so I guess should we respond to Gene and give him the yay or nay on that, or should we just go with our usual carrier, or?
I'm always up for bids personally,
Yeah.
if you can save any money. So if it doesn't take an inordinate amount of time and someone can be dedicated to it, I think we should get bids. If we end up going with our other carrier, then that's great news that we're getting a good deal.
Sound good to you? All right, so guess we'll respond to Gene and say, let's try to see if we can get some bids there, Julie.
Okay, what is the batteries that you were just talking about?
Yeah,
And Pat,
Well, I guess I should talk to Pat first, because I think he's gonna be in total agreement with me that we just donate them right to the
Okay.
dormitory. You know,
did you talk to Pat after that email came up?
no, I was gonna talk to him today, but someone went to my office, and I'm
Okay.
gonna see him tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right, so follow up on that for us, and
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
Let me talk to Pat, and maybe Pat will put the good word in, that the same thought that I have
Yeah.
and Jay has, and, you know, being a nonprofit organization, and they're always strapped for cash, I think. and
very good, thank you.
Are.
Alrighty, item 5F is the equalization certificate, which requires our signatures. Company is Northern Associates. It's a 2019 equalization municipal assessment data certificate. That's what we have to sign here, so entertain a motion to sign the 2019 Equalization Municipal Assessment Data Certificate.
I'll make them.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I'd make that motion to sign the equalization certificate.
And I will second.
all right, and this is an annual DRA gig that we had a full evaluation done. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And today is the 12th.
Here.
Thank you.
Has a-
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned that the valuation is about 12%. Do you know what percentage of market value we're at now by any chance?
I don't know.
I don't know if it was in the letter that Jason sent out.
I didn't see it come across.
I think.
I think with the reval, we're probably pretty close to 100%.
I think it's close to 100%.
And that usually, fluctuates about 5 percentage points.
Usually we're like 117%.
Oh, really, that high?
25%, and if they can get it down to 100%, that's a pretty neat trick, actually. But
I thought it was like 108 for some reason.
The idea is that everyone's at that same rate, so.
Find out. Find out the rate.
But you'll probably be wanting to know that when people come to ask about their
Right.
reevaluations, and you can tell them that, when people see that their valuation went up so much, they're
Right.
probably gonna be coming and asking you guys really, like, why go up this much? And
Are you talking about the median ratio? Because there's the median ratio and the sales ratio, is that?
so it's, if my house is 400,000, let's say, but the market right now is saying it's 375,000. It's that percentage difference. It's like, so we have that as an overall, so that they'll know, the evaluation company will know what our market value is. It's probably above 100%. It's probably somewhere between 105 and 115 would be my guess, but that's something that you'll want to know when people start coming to ask you about their
Yeah,
house
that'd be
values.
about right, because I just had mine evaluated and it was up about 5% from what the tax rate is, so it'd be about 105 then. All right, can we check on that, Jules?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's really more, I don't really actually need to know, but people, when you explain to people why their rate
Yeah.
is what it is, you want to explain that portion of it to
Yeah.
them, like, because they're like, I bought the house for this. It's like, well, Jackson's market evaluation rate is a little bit above what the market value actually is, so that's why maybe if you're going to list your home, it might not list for what we say the evaluation actually is, but everyone's at that same overinflated rate. Or maybe it's even under, whatever it is. You just want to explain to people, everyone's house is a little bit above what the actual market value is currently. And the idea behind this, because once it's done every 5 years, so if you start out low, then 5 years from now, you're going to be
Very
way low
under.
for market value, which you don't want from a real estate standpoint.
Right.
When people buying or selling homes, it's good to have it actually overinflated as opposed to underinflated.
So a $100,000 house would be 105 if it was a 5% overinflated.
Yeah, if Jackson's at 117% of market value,
Yeah.
then Jackson might evaluate a home at $100,000 at $117,000.
Right.
It might sell at 100, but Jackson says it's 117. So whatever that above market value is what you just do. You want to explain that to people when they say, well, I bought the house for this, so how can you tell me that it's a value? I said, well, market value here is this, and because 5 years from now, it should be closer down to 100% of market value. As opposed to this year, it should be actually a little bit above it. So when we see it, my house should actually be a little bit above of what I can actually sell it for. And that's 5 years from
So I
now.
don't think it would just be the
I
opposite
think
right
it's the
now.
opposite, because we've been seeing
Houses going for a lot more
a
than
lot more
what
than what they're
That's
assessed
really
at.
down now.
But that's what's unique about Jackson too, is that our house values are, because it's a statewide evaluation, so the market value is statewide, not just for Jackson. So that number isn't, what it is, it's what its actual value in Jackson is versus what it's actually valued to compared to the whole state. So it's market value concerned.
So a $100,000 house here as well as the same value as a $100,000 house in Manchester. Compare apples with apples type thing.
And that's for educational spending. I mean, that's how the state
Formula.
monitors what we owe them across the board for, education.
Ready? Thank you for that, Jerry. Any other new business? Alrighty, we'll move on to old business. And speaking of old, we got the old library and PCA agreement. And you had some info on this?
I think we're all set. We got a quote for the plowing, and after talking about whether or not our town could handle it and whether the insurance and liability would be an issue, it did turn out to be something that wasn't feasible time-wise and insurance-wise. So we did get a quote from Eastern Green. I think we put out a bid and got one quote. So, right?
4 bids.
Yeah, 4 bids and.
We submitted.
Yeah, and we only got one quote from Eastern Green, so they will be doing the plowing for that, and we will be sharing the cost with the PCA.
So will they do the shoveling at the old library?
Not the shoveling, just the plowing.
But they're gonna do the shoveling
They
at
do
the.
shovel the old library, yeah.
at the
They do?
church?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it says plowing
Oh,
and
that's right,
maintenance.
they do,
costs.
yeah, they do that, that's
But we're
right.
gonna,
But we're,
they have to bill us separately.
Right.
Mr. Green has to bill us separately. We
We'll-
can't pay the church.
right,
So I talked to Sean Landers
Mhm.
from Eastern
From Eastern
Green now. And I don't know what kind of I don't know what kind of trouble the town gets into by working on something that isn't public land, but like, I mean, I don't, it's not that the town couldn't do it.
Right,
I just, I
no.
don't feel that the town wants that liability.
No, we are okay with that.
We agreed on that. We
If-
don't want it.
If the church needs something, or if, like I told vocally to Sean, like, if it needs to be pushed back with a loader, and if you want, you know, if the church, that property can't afford it, or doesn't want to spend that money to it, I don't have any problem going in there and helping, as long as everybody's okay with it. If he needs it, if they're broke down and they need it plowed or something, like, I don't have any problem, like, helping out that situation, but I don't think it makes sense, which you guys all agree, so.
Yep.
But if there's a way to save money for the church and not taking money out of a contractor by, you know, being able to push back banks and make more money or whatever, I'm like, just let me know, and I'm happy to go in and do something if you need something like that. I mean, it's definitely a shared parking lot, you know, opening. So, I mean, I think we should take care of it as well, you know, I mean, it's not like it's a money-making organization,
Right.
so. So, I mean, if we need to help out, we need to do something, I'm happy to do it, just let me know.
Yeah, we appreciate that. It's nice to have that relationship with Sean too.
Yeah.
I'm sure he
Yeah.
appreciates it as well.
All right. Thank you very much for offering.
Are we gonna discuss the idea of a 60-40 split
Of,
of the costs?
well, it's 50/50
I believe
on
it
this.
Is it?
It's 50/50 now. We had talked about 60/40 and it was decided that the negotiations were made that we would make it a 50/50 split. And then also on top of that, the PCA has given the town of Jackson the responsibility of scheduling. So it's sort of a first come, first serve for parking in the church parking lot, where before it was, I mean, we're obviously gonna work together, but it was, the church had to approve, or, yeah, the PCA had to approve events in the old library based on what the church was doing. So now we're gonna have it more of a mutual calendar to make sure that we're not booking, double booking events. So.
And who's gonna run that?
It's sort of a community event between
Julie Hoyt, I think, is in charge of that.
well, it's between our calendar and the church calendar, which, what's her name at the church? Joanne. So they're gonna coordinate when they get applications to use the library. Make sure that there's not obviously a Sunday morning, or that it's not a event like a wedding or something like that.
How long is this agreement for?
It's 5 years, but it's up to 5 years, so if it needs to be renegotiated, it can be renegotiated.
Okay.
So,
And there's 25% cost of maintaining the septic system for the town.
which has always been there, right?
So that's another cost that would be if there's.
So if they have to replace it, we pay.
Maintain.
Yeah. Do you ever have to pump the tank, or?
You know, Peter was remarking that that tank, we looked at it, or not we, Burr looked at it, and a couple of us at the time that the arrangement was made to do the bathroom in the library, but it hasn't been pumped. And Peter Benson, I'm speaking of, said, you know, maybe it's something we need to look into, so.
That should be done like every 3 to 5 years.
Well, yes, it should, and I've heard recommended too, really, for anybody, I'm not just talking
Right.
about the church. So this time, I'm sure they have that.
Kevin?
I think it's on schedule now, if I'm correct. I think Julie Atwell might know more about that.
To be pumped.
Well, I think that question came up a couple of years ago, and they finally just said that it was going to get done every 2
We're
years.
on, just this building and the library is on the schedule.
Yeah,
I
I don't
we
think-
don't do the old library now.
All right.
No.
I know there was some discussion about it.
Yeah.
It probably needs to be,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean, it's been that long. Certainly have somebody check it out.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we're in position to approve the land agreement between the Town of Jackson and the Protestant Chapel Association.
I'll make a motion to approve the land use agreement between the Protestant Chapel Association and the Town of Jackson.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, do we have to do this in front of us?
Yeah, I can notarize it.
What am I thinking?
Notary?
Yeah, no.
I'll notarize it
Okay.
afterwards, yeah.
Afterwards, we want to sign it now, or do you want us to?
No, you can sign it now.
Okay.
We had some good discussions about this, and it was nice to work together. And like we said, it's a mutually beneficial area that works well together. So I think that nothing really substantial changed as far as that relationship goes.
That's good to hear.
Is the PCA, or do they have to sign, or is it just us that are signing it?
It says witnesses here, but
Is there a previous page where they sign that?
no. Yes,
I think you
yes.
all have to
Yeah.
sign
Yes,
this.
yes,
Yeah.
there is, yeah. You want to take that? Yeah.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Alrighty. Item 6B, school bus parking. How are we doing on the school bus parking?
Let's figure it out.
We gotta figure it out.
We got it figured out?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Well,
Temporary this year, I can put them up where my gravel area is. It's not really in the parking lot, it's kind of a separate area for this year. And then there's a spot, you know where the ski trail crosses? In the winter.
Yeah.
That grass area, this side of the road, would probably be a more long-term solution for the town if we built a gravel pad out there big enough for 2 buses and a couple of cars and bus driver parking and put a light out, put some electric out, so.
That way if the heat goes out in the building, you can sit in this bus.
Exactly. Exactly. So time out I've got it's gonna be a little less than $1,000 to run. I'm gonna buy 4 pieces of wire and the conduit is run, and so we need outlets, we need wire, we need breakers, we need a small breaker box for the panel out here. I've got a quote from Rockingham, it's 7 something, and that doesn't include anything inside the highway garage to hook them up. And so it's just a matter of, I don't know who's paying for that, for the wire. Is the school paying for that? Is town paying for that? I don't know. Is that, I guess,
Don't know.
between you two.
And that's less money and better plan than having it in the library parking lot, access and everything else.
Definitely less money.
Yeah. And then future, I mean, what we do this year would only, we would use that same hookup and just come out of that and go underground from there. We just put a small piece of conduit in the ground for the new spot, so it's not like what we'd be doing this year would be for a long term as well. You would then come off,
completely?
yeah, you would come off of the work that we do this year to just continue it to the new spot.
That's
So,
good.
So,
It wouldn't be redundant work, you know.
That's good. Right, so, on the move to get that done, hopefully?
What do we,
I just need to know, I mean, I don't know with buying a heater and stuff, I don't know if I have $1,000 extra for electrical in my budget, so I don't know where that money needs to come from.
That's
So
what I
that's my
was-
question. I can go buy the stuff tomorrow and probably have it up and going by maybe the end of the week, I don't know, but depends on whether the certified electrician can come and supervise.
I
So,
can help legally.
Right, so, it's pretty easy. It's, I mean, the conduit's in, there's a string already pulled, so the string's already there as long as it's strong. But, I don't know how bad, I don't know if that stuff goes bad or not, but, it's 10 years old, so.
So is it $1,000, you said just under 1,000, is that
It's,
your?
yeah, I've got it's
Robin,
$756, but that's not including
We need breakers in the garage.
conduit. I don't know if that needs to
Some-
be anything. You
We have
go
to
from a piece of
reduce
pipe
the
into a
pipe
box.
into the box.
So, I mean, it's not like it's less than $100, so it's less than $1,000 total. It's $756, and maybe it's $50, $60, $80 for what we need inside.
Yeah.
This is
Let's
everything.
just say
that I don't
1,000.
need
Yeah.
outside.
Is this something that can be shared between the school
Yeah,
and the
that's what I
town?
think.
So if we're right in the beginning of our budget, basically, so our budget goes through till July next year. I don't know if we technically can spend money out of our budget for that. So I think that's something we have to figure out with the Municipal Association or ERA to see where we can get it. We'll have that kind of money in our budget. We can find it somewhere. It might even be in our maintenance budget, I'm not sure. Although our maintenance budget might be getting low. I do know that there's no way we can spend, we have building maintenance funds, reserves. We cannot spend it out of that because that can only be done on school property. So we can't spend it out of that. So I don't know if we can technically spend money for that unless we appropriate it, which we can't do until
Right,
our next year's
year.
budget. So like, for instance, like the gravel that we're talking about there, we're thinking about, we'll put $2,000 in our budget for gravel
For next time.
For next year. We won't be able to spend that until July of next year. So I don't know if we can technically spend money out of our budget to pay for something like that in this fiscal year.
You could reimburse us for that expense. If we come up with money, that fund, we keep the extra money, and maybe we take some out of that and pay for this. You could reimburse town government.
So you can't take money out of that for that.
No.
You can only take money out of your current budget, which is coming to a close pretty soon. So you would know how much money you have left over in different funds, and you can't take it out of that undesignated fund balance. The only you can use that for is anything that the taxpayers to vote on to pull out,
Right.
or when you go to set the tax rate in October. There's only two things you can use it for.
It would be the overage of the highway department budget, which is approved. So we can move money around within the town.
Correct.
Budget, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Pat, is there any other electrical that has to be done for the new boiler or anything else, or is that all just
No, it's
set?
all pretty much there.
Okay.
What I can definitely tell you we can do is, so like when we retain money in September, whatever we retain, I can say we will minus $1,000 to cover that expense. This year we retained $25,000.
Yeah.
And so if we go to do that next year, I can say, well, let's retain $24,000. That way it'll go back to pay.
That works for me.
Yeah, that would be great.
Shuffle. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Item C, 6C, Fire Station Building Committee.
We have a meeting scheduled for December 3rd, so we'll be working on our strategy for what we're planning for, probably what will come in town meeting, budgets, etc.
And this would probably be just the architectural design / estimate type thing. That's
Yep.
what we said would be around 20,000.
20,000, hopefully a lot less when I get done with it.
Or-
Or less.
Alrighty, anybody else have any old business? Anything else on the fire station before I move on? No? Any other old business?
No?
I do have a little bit. I've been working at the transfer station for the last couple of weeks. Been quite interesting. They've been down a couple people. So I've had a couple weekends off and went up there and helped out, which was quite enlightening.
I'm sure.
It's amazing what people put in there and what they should put in there and where they park, and even though there are lines out there, they can't seem to follow them, but I guess that'll be part of our learning curve. Hank and I just made an appointment to get the video started. Now that I've had some up close and personal experiences there, that kind of gave me a nice little food of thought for things that can be mentioned in the video, and hopefully we can get that up next Wednesday. We're going to try to shoot that.
Nice.
Just an FYI, I know plastics have always been an issue. I spent the last 2 days sorting plastic. That's all I've done. Yeah, it's interesting.
They give the new guy the good work, right?
Yeah. But again, it is what it is. But I think that the thing that's confusing everybody is that basically we only collect 3 types of bottles. We have the milk bottles, which are the smoky ones I call. The solid ones, which are laundry detergent bottles, and basically anything else with a cap on it, Gatorade, water bottles, soda bottles, that type of thing. All those other plastics are thrown away.
Yep.
All those other peats.
Flexible packaging.
Yeah, it's just the bottles. And then I spent, ungodly number of hours, it seemed like, just sorting out plastic that was in the water bottle container that shouldn't be in there. So that's probably the biggest pet peeve, is getting the word out on what needs to be collected, what needs to be sorted. I know there's a lot of confusion out there, so hopefully we can sort that out. That was a joke. But I wasn't planned. I was off the top of my head.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's why.
But so it's those guys do a great job up there. It is a tough job. A lot of activity. When years ago they kind of got crucified for not having a lot of activity, but that is not the case up there now. And the place looks pretty good. And hopefully we can not lose as much money shipping things to landfills. That's kind of the whole point of that. It's not a money-making operation by any ways or means, but it means less than the landfill, which is really, I think, the goal for everybody, I hope. And there are still some people who are reluctant on doing it. I feel sorry that they can't, but hopefully we can change their mind with this video and kind of give them some information that'll help it make it easier for them, because it really isn't that hard. It really isn't. But that being said, I guess that's what it is.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, it was fun. I had a good time up there, actually. I really enjoyed working with those folks. They work real hard. Any other old business, Pat?
Has there ever been, I know Conway was looking into just shipping out all the recycling, and like they didn't sort. Everything went into a bin and it got taken to a place, and then that place did that. They didn't end up going that route. But has that ever been looked at? Is that?
Well, I think, again, I'm not an expert at this, but, from what I understand, the closest one is Portland.
Yeah.
So you pay an exorbitant amount of cost just to ship them down there. And there's no money to be made from it. I mean, we basically, we actually get pretty high ratings on our bales that we do produce in terms of their quality, especially the cardboard, and the cans are particularly high quality items that we produce. But it's just no money in it right now. If things change around, we can. One thing that's nice is we can modify. If something comes up and say, okay, we can collect this and that'll be worth something, we can change how we're set up to do that. But right now, it's just nothing in there for us. I wish there was. Joyce?
This morning on New Hampshire Public Radio at 9 o'clock, there was an interesting program on recycling and landfills. It will be repeated at 7 o'clock tonight if anybody has an opportunity to listen. It was really, I thought, very worthwhile.
How long, was it a full half hour?
An hour. It's on the exchange at 9 in the morning and 7 at night.
Very good. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. More information is better.
John, I happened to go to the transfer station this weekend, and I almost never do. I saw where the plastics are, and there are bottles up over the chute. The display to show you what to put where, that doesn't work.
Not working well enough. I think, again, people I think are just misinformed. I know, I don't want to single out a company, but Poland Spring water, those crinkly,
water bottles, yeah.
P number ones. They think everything that's number one goes in there with them. It's just the bottles, not the sandwich containers and all the other things that we buy so much of in the stores, unfortunately. I wish we could recycle those, because gosh knows we get a lot of them.
Yeah.
I would probably say I threw out in, a tray which is, twice the size of this desk, I would probably throw out 3 barrels fulls of unacceptable plastic that's in that one tray that I have to sort out by hand, and that takes obviously a lot of time, manpower, to do, where we could be doing something a little more efficiently. But that's the biggest time-consuming thing, is sorting out that plastic. Cardboard's great. Great job on the cans. I mean, people are not mixing those up with the tin, which is very good. But the plastic is just horrendous, and it's killing time, man-hours, just putting man-hours into that stuff, which unfortunately.
So what I got this morning from that program is, it starts to start way back with manufacturers and packaging. Eliminate that stuff as much as you can, so it doesn't end up causing that.
And I try to, for me, myself and I, all three of us,
You minimize.
I try to, avoid places that I go to do takeout stuff with plastic, as much as possible. So I try to change my buying habits based on that a little bit. I mean, every little bit helps.
All counts.
It all does, But it just seems like it's an awful lot.
Yeah, it is.
Doc.
The one consistent thing I hear from people about the recycling bins up there is that the shelf is too high and the windows are too high. I'm wondering if a little bit might be exasperation. People just get exasperated with the fact that they can't do it, so they just throw whatever it is over into the window. It's fun for me because it's right at my height.
Right.
I hear it from a lot of people that complain about the height of the shelf.
Especially on the bottle side, because it does fall off there a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep, I know it.
Heavier.
It is heavy, it's trickier to get them up there, I agree. Maybe we can, move those around, so there's possibilities on the lower side, but plastics are easier to throw because they're light.
That whole shelf system was all designed off that Lancaster thing.
Right.
Which the other half of the Lancaster thing never really got implemented up there. So the shelf, that Lancaster was the model that we went off of.
Right.
And they put all the recycling on the shelf and leave it, and they have a person that puts it into, they sort it off of the shelf.
Right.
An employee sorts it and puts it into the correct container. And so the shelf got built, but we lack the manpower to do the other step, which is.
Well, we do it at the other end when we get it pulling in, but yeah, you're right, it could be double checked there.
The shelf could have been probably redesigned to be better, but it was designed, I think Burr designed that off of the Lancaster model, which was really not what we're doing technically, because that's definitely a complaint that I hear from a lot of people, is that.
And we are down 2 people.
Leap and shelf.
That's right.
It's tough when you're down 2 people, because then you can't put anybody out there,
For sure.
But the place does look a lot better than it has been in the past, that's for sure.
It does.
Any other comments about that? Thank you all. All right, any public comments? Item number 7. Anybody have anything to share with us?
What?
Yeah, we don't have any non-publics today, right?
I'll just say one thing, please. I'm always an advocate of having department heads here, so thanks, Pat, for coming in today.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point for, including them in the action items. 'Cause
Thank you, John, for that. I appreciate it.
I heard people comment about that, and they don't always have something, and I hate to see them come and spend extra hours here, and, on the clock, if they don't have to be, and of course, they can do it in writing if you wish, but we'd love to hear from the department heads. Obviously, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, they all have regular minutes. So that's kind of that, they can kind of take care of them in that aspect, but the ones who don't have regular meetings and stuff, that we'd love to hear from them. Thank you for that. Anything else? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
I'll second that.
All righty, any discussion? Thank you all for